Billiongodsun. I am originally from Indianapolis, Indiana. Moved here when I was 9 with my mom in 1980. And we initially touched down on Crenshaw and Washington, so specifically 10th Ave and 21st Street. And the same relative had a duplex right down the street here, so this became one of my initial areas, and my mom moved over to North Inglewood and then finally Ladera. So I've pretty much been in this area the majority of my life. And right now we are in what a lot of folks know as Leimert Park. We are renaming it AfricaTown, and it is one of the last black thriving communities in the nation. Not just the city, not just the state, but actually nationally, because as we post our videos and show what we're doing here, we're getting hit up from people all across the country like, whoa, y'all doing that? Y'all still doing that? Even folks in Harlem is like, you know, we're being wiped out. So what we're doing is we're trying our best to call out, ring the alarm, educate people to get involved, and us working together to organize ourselves to sustain what we have left. We've been pushed out of here in large numbers, but we believe we have enough people left, enough educated, brilliant, talented people to pull our energy, time, resources together that we can hold on to and even build back what we had. When I first arrived in 1980, we had a chocolate city. It used to be a show called Solid Gold. It was kind of like an upscale version of Soul Train, but you had black folks, you know, getting their groove on, dressed up and whatnot. But when you come to like here, Leimert Park, that's what you saw. You saw black, beautiful black people walking around with their silk bell bottoms and big earrings and afros, and we transitioned into the 80s and black folks, you know, kind of started getting into the hip hop. Still a beautiful place. And then the 90s, that's when you started to see the decline. You know, LA has taught the world black culture as far as gang banging, taught the world black culture as far as slanging dope, taught the world black culture as far as a lot of negative stuff. So now we're bringing back the spirit of Bunchy Carter and the Panthers that were home to Los Angeles. Before the Panthers, they were known as the Slaughsons. So we're bringing back that culture and spirit and letting the world know LA has multifaceted blackness here. And we want to build on the positives of what we got and you know, move forward from that. So the name Billiongodsun, I was in the hip hop early on. What's up with you, bro?
How you doing?
So the name Billiongodsun, I was in the hip hop from early on, went through a lot of different hip hop names. And then finally when I got to high school, you know, I used to cut my hair, and one time I used to try to mimic Mike Tyson. He used to have like real thick parts, so I made like a huge part through my head, and this dude was like bagging. He was like, yo, what you think, you Moses or somebody parting the sea? So as I became older, Moses became my rap name. I went to Atlanta, went on this real spiritual thing. Our music became more spiritual, but my cousin started a label back here in LA, so I came back to LA. They had another act they were gonna release before me, and I was just listening to the material they was doing. I'm like, Moses ain't gonna work. So I just kind of like meditated for a few nights, like, yo, what name should I come with? And then I'm like, just go with my birth name, William. And then I turned on the radio one day and Black Eyed Peas got Will I Am. So I can't do William, so I'm meditating on it some more. So I'm getting this visual. I want my music to reach masses of people. So then finally, Billion just comes to me. I'm like, okay, Billion. So then I'm like, okay, what can the last name be? So then I'm like, okay, I can go back to my spiritual side and acknowledge that I'm a child of the Most High. So that's where Godson came from. But yeah, that's where the name Billiongodsun. But to speed it up and bring it more up to date, from about the late 90s, different elders started educating us that Leimert, who designed this area, he designed both this area in LA and he designed the area up in Oakland by Lake Merritt, but he was actually a racist. And when he designed this area, he had covenants to where they wouldn't sell to black people. And even in this park, he had a covenant that still exists today to where you can't use it for commercial purposes. You can't sell in this park. So in the 90s, it was one lady that would just walk around, you gotta know this your AfricaTown now, honey. And it was another sister, B. Hall, that actually started an official push for it. So gradually over time, different people would say AfricaTown, Little Africa. Bring it up to date, 2016, when we brought our coalition together, initially to address police terrorism. But as we started addressing police terrorism, we looked in this park right here. There were 50 people sleeping in the park. On this end, we had people that use drugs. On the end by Crenshaw, we had the people that drunk, alcoholics more so. So it was a division in the park, homeless, with his police constantly running and terrorizing folks. So we started looking at, okay, we gotta buckle down in our home base and start organizing. So we started a food program. And then with the food program, we started finding out there were different meetings in the community where they were basically discussing the future of the community, from the park to the commercial village to the surrounding area. So we started going in these meetings, and we started identifying different black organizations that named themselves Leimert this, Leimert stakeholders, Leimert that, Leimert. But out of their mouths, they had a very similar spirit to Leimert. All we were hearing these reasons why they wanted to get rid of the homeless. We like, they not trash, these are people. So we need to be focused on housing the homeless, not getting rid of them. Then they were like, the vendors are making us say, we need to get rid of them. The drummers, all that noise, we need to get rid of. They were like certain merchants, we need to get rid of them. Because a lot of merchants at that time would have parties at night. So the whole tone was like, yo, y'all sounding like a Leimert, black Leimerts, that's what we started naming. But one time in one of the meetings, our brother stood up and said, yo, wait a minute, this our AfricaTown. How y'all talking about getting rid of black people and we at AfricaTown? So that kind of struck a nerve with me, AfricaTown. So I went to social media and I was asking people, if we were to rename our community, what name would y'all suggest? Off the back, some folks said AfricaTown, some people said Little Africa, some folks said Blacktown, some folks said like Grecia, New Jerusalem. So it was about 12, 13 different names. So then I took all those names and I asked folks to vote on which ones. And AfricaTown got the most votes. So we just ran with it. To that point, our coalition didn't have a name, but then we said, okay, if this is gonna be AfricaTown, we're the AfricaTown Coalition. And it just caught on quick, it took off. Then we connected with our elder sister, B. Hall, who had started her campaign in the 90s, other folks. So gradually, a lot of folks were like, yeah, we actually walked the community, came to events, and did different petitions. And I think we got maybe about 400 or 500 signatures. B. Hall probably got twice that. Another young brother in the early 2000s, it got like, I think, 2,000 signatures. So in addition to the immediate community here, Black LA that came through here for different events was saying, yes, we want us to have an AfricaTown. Chinese got a Chinatown, Koreans got a Koreatown, we want an AfricaTown. So we've been pushing that. Politically, we've gotten some pushback. B. Hall actually got the council member at her time, Leimert Park, to sign off on it, saying yeah. She got a congresswoman at that time, Diane Watson, to sign off and say yeah. But because we're a little more radical now, we've gotten political pushback. But again, the people are saying yeah. A lot of the merchants are starting to embrace it, and overall it's spreading. So we look forward to it officially being AfricaTown real soon. One thing I always try to get people to focus on, when powerful entities have an agenda, if you stay focused on that objective, everything that trickled down makes sense. Some of the challenges we are having here is, even though people will say what's happening to black people right now is racist, we have the highest number of people sleeping on the streets right now. We have the highest number of people that's getting locked up. We have the highest number of businesses going out of business. We have the highest number of people that have lost their jobs over the past, even before COVID, the past few years. So when you see that, you hear that, you saying racist, 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 it's like, wow, okay, yeah, these white people still tripping. But then when you start investigating, it's actually black people that are in a position making these calls and carrying this stuff out. So our challenges is where, going back to the 60s and prior to that, where it was black and white, black people knew and could identify which side they were on. Today, because of the economics, because capitalism within the black community has has made more loyalty to the white capitalist agenda. It now has created a lot of psychological confusion for people. So our challenges is a lot of times some of the same people we are fighting for will go against us. And just a few examples, like when we were in the streets and physically stopping the police from hurting our people, it would be black people that would stop, put the phone on us, or use their phone to call for more police to come get us for stopping the police from hurting somebody black. When we were going against the stores, one of the things liquor stores, department stores will always do is they would pay or try to pay locals in the community to stop us from boycotting. Right down the street here on Vernon and Western, the Louisiana Chicken. It got so pathetic that this brother stepped to us, told us we had to shut down this boycott because they paid him 9 pieces of chicken. Another time, the store right down the street here, yeah, it's almost comical, but it's unfortunately the state of our people. Right down the street here, when we were shutting down the previous owner Hubert's liquor store, we were also simultaneously shutting down about 12 different stores, mostly owned by Koreans, because of both violating people in the community, but also because of the lack of hiring black people and putting back in their community. So initially, what we had called at the time, the Korean Al Sharpton came, and he started letting it be known around the community. He had $20,000 to shut what we were doing down. First, he tried to offer it to us directly. We told him to beat it. So then he came, he found some drummers, were offering to pay them certain stuff. Even got to one point, he was setting up a dojo in this park. So we got with some of the other martial artists around here. We came through his dojo in the street. And then the same store, when the new owners came, they initially put out a $2,000 offer to the youngsters. Now again, because I'm from here, my nephew and niece grew up around here, a lot of the young people at that time who were in the age group that they were trying to pay off, they were giving them free liquor and blunts and all types of stuff, they knew me as Uncle Booby. So they would come to me like, yo, Uncle Booby, they trying to give us $2,000 to get y'all out of here. You know, can y'all just leave for a few days? And I was like, no, that'll defeat the purpose. But what y'all can do, next time y'all go sit down and talk to them, turn your phones on, record them making this deal with you, and then blackmail. So I don't know what they eventually did or did not do, but that went away. The new owners fully came, and they have since hired mostly all black staff. They constantly give back to our food program every month. But in addition to that, just in general, because they're really trying to clear this area out right now. Again, homeless, vendors, merchants, and again, it's being ran through black political offices. It's being ran through nonprofits. An example of what I mean by that is areas like this do not have a sanitation crew that comes through. So what's been designed in certain areas throughout the city, they have what's called a BID, a Business Improvement District. Like AfricaTown is a commercial district. So we have a bid here where the property owners pay money, and then whoever manages the bid then hires the staff to come clean up the area. But because they had a plan in 2015 called the 2020 Vision. And in this plan, it clearly said what they wanted to do: push people out, clear it out, and bring in things that will accommodate this train once it opens. New housing, new types of business, more corporate business, better looking things and all of that. So around 2019, what we found with the bid was, instead of them using money to actually clean the area up, they were allowing the area to go blight. But once the area goes blight, the city attorney can then file a nuisance claim and then try to seize the property owner's property. So that was one of the things they were doing. 2016, like almost $400 million came to house the homeless. And around that time, different organizations, black organizations, was walking through this park when we had like 50 people sleeping in the park, trying to get names and numbers. As soon as the money came out, they all disappeared. But some of them same folks, we would occasionally see them in a brand new car. Some of them would come back and they would give out like bus tokens and sandwiches. So again, our challenge is finding enough people that are really committed to helping us. Because at the end of the day, they program most of us, it's just about money, 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 but money pretty much controls your time and access. So if your whole thing is about money, you're either not going to find the time to actually help your people, or you're going to find a way that you can exploit your people and make the money. So because we push a hardcore line of being about the people, we've been told, oh, we can't fund AfricaTown, we got to get AfricaTown out here because they're helping the wrong type of people. So again, our challenge is, even though we know at the top level we're fighting white supremacy, we're fighting corporate America, on the lower levels coming on down, they're finding our own to go against us. We dealt with Judases in real time throughout the year, and I think because the movie came out, a lot of younger generation were able to identify what we were talking about, where prior years to that, a lot of times people didn't see it. Anytime the TV puts an image out there is, yo, you know, this is your politician, this is your spokesperson, and then they see us calling them out for their contradictions and inconsistencies, then those people that are used to following them through TV kind of look at us, oh, y'all being disrupted, we all got to come together, we got to unite. We're explaining to them, you can't unite with someone who's carrying out an agenda to sabotage us. So prior to last year, it was harder for people to get that, but I think after that movie came out, it reminded them and showed them that, yeah, we got those amongst us who are either sent here or those amongst us who can be turned against us. So I think that movie helped big time. Part of what we got to do, again, our thing is always proactive, preventative action. So it's educating our young folks. Like we used to run summer freedom schools, and outside of the traditional type of schooling, like we would have our members who volunteer time to run the school. We would each take turns educating our skill set. But outside of that, we would educate the young people on real stuff. So like with my kids, 4 kids, by the time the 2 oldest ones were like 13, 14, they can engage pretty much anybody in a political, economic, historical conversation. Around that same time, Hidden Colors it came out. So part of what we did was, as our fundraising, we would distribute those, but that would allow our youngsters to engage adults in conversations. But part of that conversation is educating on the ugly parts of it. Okay, people say we need to come together, put our money together to do this today, buy housing. Okay, 50 years ago we did the same thing. So yes, let's find out how we did it 50 years ago, but let's also find out what went wrong. Now that then empowers a lot of young people. Once it comes towards them, they can see it, and if they have also been given a balance, a peace within self, they typically are not as inclined to bite that way. And just to give a more breakdown of what I'm saying, like when young people are brought up in a house and they have, you know, both a male and a man and a woman to learn from, then the man gets to learn from his feminine side. He gets to learn how to engage women as opposed to what's being pumped out through the radio, lust and predatory behavior. The same thing for the young woman. She gets to learn and see what it really is to be loved and what it is she really needs in a man. So where we get that when we have that, because a lot of our homes have been broken up, so a lot of the base stuff, we don't even get that. But when we can now go back and educate on these other parts of it, what happened in the past when we were trying to build economic, what happened in the past to our political representation, again, it puts them in a position to where somebody steps to them to try to buy them off or turn them this way or that way. They're a lot more grounded to hopefully say no and not get caught up in it. You know, master the game and learn how to flip it on it. That's something else I teach young people. You know, it's a tricky game, and it's quite often very subtle. You know, they really play people's egos, and now that you got social media where they can actually study your profile and know what you like, you know, they know what type of brothers are looking at what type of women the women look like. They know how you think, so they really have a better idea on how to come at you now. There's actually, it's called the Stratfor emails. Stratfor, S-T-R-A-T-F-O-R emails. These are emails that were leaked back in, I think, 2012, 2013. But basically it showed how intelligence agencies were hired by corporations like Coca-Cola and others to break up what was known as the Occupy movement. This was way back in 2011. They had from Occupy Wall Street to Occupy LA, but it was really pushing an agenda against corporate America. But what these emails showed was how these intelligence companies were identifying people, and prior to going in, assassinating, setting them up, they were figuring out, okay, this leader has a relationship. So can we send somebody on that leader to break him and cause trouble with his relationship, or can we send somebody on that leader's partner to cause troubles and break them up? So again, it just shows how intentionally they study us. And again, if you're going through junior high, high school, and you're not being exposed to none of this, by the time you get out there in the real world, you're more vulnerable to having it happen. So again, getting information like how you're documenting this out, past experiences, and just show our people how intently these people are to hold us down, to control us and contain us. And it's not just, you know, we want to get out, we want to live, we want to love, we want to do, but we got to know we got real predators on us doing everything they can to control us. So in 1991, a movie New Jack City came out. And back then, one of the places black people would go was up in Westwood. Anytime a movie came out that was catered to black people, we would go there. So the night, matter of fact, that Sunday night, Rodney King had got beat. So that Sunday night, we all watched this on TV, because back then there wasn't no phones and all of that. So it was limited stuff people watched, and if someone was on one channel, everybody got a call and everybody watched the same thing. So we watched Rodney King get beat that Sunday. So Friday, the movie New Jack City comes out, and we all go to Westwood to see it. I think we went to the last show, and we were turned up. Cats had been drinking. Might have been like 300 of us out there who had bought tickets to get into the movie. So they let about half the people in, then they told the other half of us they weren't gonna let us in. Okay, give us our money back. This is a Friday. They told us to come back Monday. And we like, y'all done lost your mind. You know, we just paid y'all cash money. Give us our money back right now. So, you know, you got 150 some young black folks. Some of us been drinking or whatever, so we getting rowdy. So they calling the UCLA police, and it might have been like 5 of them. So they start telling us, you know, go down the street trying to bully, pushing a couple cats, this and that. So we get about a half a block, and finally one youngster snap. He's like, y'all not gonna do us like y'all did Rodney King. Then another brother pick up a trash can, he take it and throw it out. At that instant, the police turned and ran. That was the first time in my life I saw the police run. And I think like a dog or whatever, all of us just clicked on. We saw the police run, so we started barking after them. But what we didn't know is when they initiated, or maybe even before they came, they had already called for backup. So as we started to approach them, Santa Monica police start swooping in. So we're like, okay, whatever. So we turn back around and we start going through the Westwood Village, and naturally a riot breaks out. So I ended up being one of the 9 that got arrested in that. They isolated me for like the whole week. I was locked up, and I just thought about it because the year before I dropped out of UCLA, my consciousness and activism to that point had mainly been channeled through my rapping. You know, I was like, I'm gonna spit it to the world and activate people, but what I also saw rapping was my intentions, or my inspiration, because it wasn't even my intention, it was my inspiration to motivate people to action. But at the same time, I knew if I saw the police do something, it wouldn't wait and make a song about it after, it was actually do something then. So I sat in jail that week, and I was like, you know what? Coming out of high school, they was like encouraging me to go to college and get a job, and I even had aspirations at that point of playing basketball, and I was like, nah. That was what I was meant to do. That Friday night was what I meant to do, and the whole time, every day the police would come back with a newspaper with different pictures like, yeah, we got you now, showing me stuff like, see, this is you, and wasn't none of it me. But in my mind, I had already thought, you know, if I gotta go to jail, prison for this, whatever it is. Fortunately, my mom got an attorney. I got out, and I started writing and getting my thoughts out. But the more I started just getting in tune with what it was I believe to be my purpose, which is on one end, do all I can to help and build our people up, but at the same time get out and challenge, contest, disrupt, and even if possible end the predators that are coming in on us. So I think between those two, that for the most part has been my purpose and pretty much the majority of my life to this point. So right now, last year, we had to step up and become official organizers of our Sunday marketplace. Now, my recollection of the marketplace came out of a drum circle. The drum circle I remember starting back in the early 90s right here in the park. We graduated in the 90s, you know, some of us would come out here, sell weed. There used to be a bus stop right here on Crenshaw that had a barbecue pit by it. One brother might come set up, sell sodas and chips. Another brother, he might come barbecue some hot dogs and sell it. But by the 2000s, it became more and more vendors setting up. So probably in the first decade, the middle of the first decade, towards the end of that decade, it became an official market. So again, coming up into the 2016 and all of that, as they're talking about pushing it out, getting rid of it, we began last year where they actually had enforcement coming out trying to discourage the vendors from coming out, because a lot of our vendors at that time did not have licenses and permits. So a lady we were working with, she's a legal assistant, so she started getting our vendors licensed and permitted. So then the city figured, oh, you know, they're trying to be smart. Their next move was to come with claiming the streets on Sunday as a farmer's market. So we started hearing that going around. So our move then was to get the farmer's market permit. We got it, and then with the permit, they gave us a $6,000 a week bill. So now most of the work we had been doing had to be shifted on, one, figuring out how to fundraise to pay this bill every week, but two, how to organize the market, because as a farmer's market, it was saying people couldn't just show up and set up where they wanted. Food vendors had to be there, vendors had to be a certain amount apart. But what this did was it limited the amount of people that could come out. Because it used to be, you know, people come, sit right next to each other, then somebody sit right behind them and behind them. So we were able to accommodate as many as showed up. But now with the new structure and everything, it kind of limited the numbers of people to about 100 vendors. So that created conflict, because now, even though we're for the community, we're having to tell people you can't come out. So that kind of made us look like the bad guy, but we're trying to explain to the people this is what the city forced on us in order for us to stay here. So we went through a whole battle. At one point they tried to revoke our permit. We fought. Not only did they grant the time we had, they gave us an additional 2 months. And then it fell back to the issue of fundraising. Fortunately, because of our work with BLM LA, they stepped up and became our primary sponsor. And to date, we've raised almost $200,000 from April last year to now, and BLM LA has pretty much given us about half of that. The other half is, like I was saying, we get out and do these Black Power hours, social media, asking for funds. But now, their next move, starting Tuesday, is they're just gonna tear up the streets. So they will make the streets both unaccessible for the vendors to set up. They will make it unaccessible for people to drive through and patronize, both the vendors and merchants. So now the merchants, because part of what we've been telling the merchants was the 2020 vision plan that we got exposed to in 2015 included moving a lot of them out. And again, a lot of them felt, oh, well, you know, it's not me, you know, I got the type of business that here. But now they see, as the city talking about tearing up the streets, that will potentially force them out. So now we're having more conversation with the merchants, trying to figure out, are we gonna go for an injunction? Are we gonna do this? Are we gonna do that? We gotta educate the folks, we gotta get more awareness. One of the things that helped the merchants last year, part of our fight for the vendors, we started hearing different vendors say they want to do this, that, and the other to the merchants, because they felt the merchants were really pushing to get them out. So as we're talking to the vendors, a movie production came. And we said, you know what, instead of burning stuff down, bashing windows out, let's shut this movie down. So we ended up shutting the movie down, big old fight breaks out. But in response, prior to that, a lot of merchants were not getting paid off these movie productions. So in response to that, they started getting a more equitable share when these movie productions came in. But also people like Issa Rae, Ava DuVernay heard what was going on, and they made a commitment to start having productions done here last year. Like Issa Rae, she had Insecure shot here like twice a month. But because of the production money, it helped the merchants pay their leases. So now that the streets are being torn up to where productions might not be able to happen here, customers might not be able to come, and they're telling everyone that this is going to be an 8-month to 1-year project, anybody's out of business if you disrupt a customers for 8 months to a year. So again, we're looking at ways we could possibly physically navigate this. We're also trying to figure out ways to get both the vendors and merchants a better online presence. But just everything we can to keep this area going, because we know outside entities really want this. It's centered in one of the best positions in LA. You got the beach right here, you got LAX right there, you got Hollywood. Pretty much everything people come to LA for is within a small distance from this area. Plus the scenery right here is incredible. So for us, it's not even so much about all of that, but again, it's about the fact that this is community. For me, this is my life. You know, in addition to the landscape and the buildings, it's the people I know. You know, brother right here, seen him grow up. The elder right there, he saw me grow up. But for us, that's what community is about more so as opposed to these property transactions everybody else is looking at. So our fight is to adjust to the next level of this gentrification that's happening, but more immediately right here is adjusting to this street disruption. And fortunately, last year we were able to expand into 2 different African countries. One of our brothers went to Zanzibar, so we now have an AfricaTown, well, Zanzibar, Tanzania. We now have an AfricaTown, Tanzania. Another one of our brothers just went back home to Senegal, so he's building that there. So part of what we want to do with them is start building trade with them. Our brother, when he came back from Zanzibar, he bought a few products, so they're about to send us some more. They are now sending us some custom-made products that were made in Zanzibar that say AfricaTown on it. So we're excited about that, do that, but potentially the same thing with Senegal. Our brother that went home to Senegal that's from here, he and his wife make clothing. His wife is from here, so she went there, but establishing something with that. So that's the positive side of what we're looking at, but we're also looking at the ugly reality that we just got the next phase of this battle to maintain what we got.